Welcome to Right Way Politics. We do politics the right way, the winning way, and we leave the left way behind. Brian Kirwin here, noted Virginia political consultant, and I've been asked a few questions as I've been gallivanting around this wonderful mid-March hot and cold weather season, and people have been asking me because this has been a pretty hot issue for about a year now, and nobody's really publicized anything or really spoken about the politics of the issue from a polling perspective. So I did a little research and dug into some polls that have been done between the last couple of months in 2022 and the first few months of 2023. But there have been a lot of stories in the past 6 months, especially with state legislators like in Virginia, offering bills about this issue of inappropriate sexual content, graphic sexual content in school libraries, elementary, middle school, high schools in some cases. And you see school boards debating it, and you see legislators debating it. A few political campaigns have been centered on this a little bit. It seems to heat up in the legislature. Some bills got pushed forward. Some bills did not go very far concerning it. But it sure got a whole lot of people riled up at the grassroots level. And now individual school boards seem to be debating policies about how to deal with this issue. They've been discussing it for a while. I just pulled a few stories. Here's one from Iowa. This was March 9th in Iowa. Headline reads, "Bill would bar books with explicit sexual content from school libraries." It's about a bill in the Iowa House, a state bill. Republican Representative Brooke Broden said the bill makes it clear that sexually explicit content is not age appropriate for students. Her quote, "I honestly cannot believe this bill. This is a bill we need to pass, but unfortunately the books contain images and passages exactly with these sex acts have been found in Iowa schools. Republicans voted for it. Democrats voted against it. It's been a pretty partisan issue as we go through this issue. The governor, Kim Reynolds, apparently has a proposal on policies. Hasn't been taken up by either the House or the Senate. The Senate hasn't debated the bill yet, but it had to pass the House. California school broadcast sexually explicit books. That was the headline on a Fox News article. A public school library in California contained sexually charged and pornographic books, including one which discussed a so-called, quote, sexually mature 6-year-old boy, end quote, engaging in sex acts. They broadcasted the book on TikTok, on Instagram, caused a lot of controversy, even in sunny liberal California. A March article in Inside Nova here in Virginia, bill to label graphic sexual content in school libraries dies, but not the underlying issue. A bill to require the cataloging of visual depictions of graphic sexual content available in school libraries passed the Virginia House, did not pass the Democratic Senate. This was Delegate Tim Anderson, a client of mine when he ran for office, introduced House Bill 1379, which would require Virginia K-12 school principals or their designee to start and maintain a school library catalog accessible to parents, to view available content and opt their children out if they wanted. American Library Association says there's been a, quote, unprecedented surge in local and statewide book challenges. A total of 79 bills in state houses across the country will add a new layer of scrutiny to school libraries and administrators. There are other parental advisory bills that were introduced in the General Assembly. They didn't pass. Anderson's quote, "I could opt my child out from having access to these books. I wasn't trying to take the books out of libraries. I wasn't trying to censor them. I was just trying to empower parents to make the best decision for their child." His district is dealing with at least 100 books that he would want cataloged as sexually graphic material, Anderson said. Another article on CBS Charlottesville, headline, Considering Ban on All Sexually Explicit Books from School Libraries. Madison County School Board, the local level, discussing a potential ban on what they call sexually explicit books from school libraries, a state law passed by the 2022 General Assembly requires local school boards to adopt policies regarding such materials that align with the State Department of Education's model. So local school boards are debating these policies. And just this week in Virginia Beach, a member of the Virginia Beach School Board is drafting a policy to restrict access to, quote, graphic sexual content in school libraries. This is reported by the Virginian Pilot out of Norfolk. School board member Vicki Manning brought up concerns regarding several books during Thursday's meeting of the board's policy review committee, of which she is the chair, working with legal counsel to change the language of the policy on library materials to deal with books that she says are not appropriate for children. Her quote, I'm not asking for books being banned. I am asking to have age-appropriate materials accessed by children with parental involvement and permission. The school board attorney said it was important to have specific definitions in future policy and a defined guideline for anyone who would be in charge of what books would be restricted. So that is moving through the process. So we see state legislatures dealing with this. We see local school boards dealing with this. Vicki Manning, a school board member, has also been a client of mine, so I've been pretty immersed in this. But the question that I do get asked is there any polling on this? Where are the people on this? Why? Because it becomes amazingly partisan. Republicans, by and large, overwhelmingly support this. Democrats, by and large, overwhelmingly vote against this in elected office. But what about the voters? What do the people think? I found two polls. I found one from late 2022. This was a Rasmussen poll. This was a national poll, a poll of likely voters, which just Rasmussen does. So it's pretty accurate, but pretty focused on people who vote in November elections. Pretty overwhelming support. It's not partisan when you ask people. It's pretty overwhelming. If you ask the voters, should parents be fully informed about the books in libraries, 89% in school libraries, 89% said they should be fully informed. You ask them, should sexually explicit images not be available in public school libraries? 69% say they should not be. 79% says they should not be available in middle school libraries, and 85% say they should not be available in elementary school libraries. So this is way beyond Republicans, way beyond conservatives, way beyond even independents. This is a giant chunk of Democratic voters who say that these books should not be available, even more so in middle schools and elementary schools. This year, 2023, Roanoke College did a poll of a whole lot of issues and a whole lot of the elected officials and the General Assembly and the governor and his popularity and his job approval and all of that stuff. And they polled adults. This wasn't likely voters. This wasn't likely voters. So this was polling adults. Asked them a simple question and kind of defines it. I actually sent an email, which was not responded to the author of the poll, because this is the way they worded the question. Would you support or oppose efforts to remove books from public schools because some people find them offensive or inappropriate? Wording the question that way, and you get a very different response. You get 21% support and 73% oppose. So people say, Brian, how the heck can this be? We have one poll here that says these books shouldn't be in our schools, and you have another poll that says 73% would oppose taking books out of schools. And again, got to read the question, got to understand what you're talking about, and it gives you your path. And you've actually heard people take this path in some of these articles that I read. When you ask people if some people, what is some people? A vocal minority of people says, remove this book, I think it's inappropriate. That's not the bar that people are willing to go to say we should take this book out. We should take out some classic American novel because some people think it's offensive. This is obviously, to me, this is a question against cancel culture. This is just because somebody says, I'm offended, that's not enough to remove a book from a school library. And if you read it that way, this is a cancel culture question, and 73% oppose cancel culture. It takes a lot more than I'm offended to get a book removed from school in most people's view. In 73% of the people, their view, some people finding offensive or inappropriate is not enough. And I think Democrats see a question like this and feel vindicated. And if they can make the argument this is about book banning, where are they going to stop? Once they start banning books, we're going to have book burnings at school libraries. It's funny to see the Democrats hiding under the shadow of opposing cancel culture, but that's where their political safety net is. If they can paint this as they want to get rid of books just because they think that they're offensive. And look, there's a heck of a lot of Democrats that want things banned because they think it's inappropriate. So that's why there's probably and with 73%, there's a whole lot of Republicans that are saying, look, just because somebody says this offends me, that doesn't mean throw the book away. But what it does mean is when you get specific and you talk about what books, and it's not that just some people find it offensive or some people find it inappropriate, and you get really detailed about which books are you trying to say the children shouldn't have access to. When you talk about graphic sexual imagery and you go to the point of making the argument, here's what's in these books. Show the photos, describe the photos, read actual passages in the book. When you tell people explicitly what you're trying to control and what you're trying to keep out of children's school libraries, then you get 85% saying, I don't want that in elementary school libraries, and 79% in middle school libraries. So that's where the debate is. If the debate is about this is inappropriate and offensive and it shouldn't be there, most people are going to say that's not good enough to remove a book. But if you focus on explicit sexual images, and not just words, but also graphics and photos and illustrations, and you say, what about that book? 85% of people are going to be on your side and say that shouldn't be there, or at the very least, I should be able to keep that away from my kid, and I should be able to know it's in my kid's school library, and I should be able to make sure that they don't make it available to my child. So for people who are trying to navigate the political maelstrom, where the people are is, just because something's offensive doesn't mean it gets canceled. But if something is explicit, no child should have access to it in a school library. That's the politics of explicit books in school libraries. We'll be back next week with more political insight. This is Brian Kirwin, Right Way Politics. We hope you find your way back.